After years of waiting, we finally got our first look at the Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering set, and it contains the most rare and possibly the most expensive Magic card ever printed. This full art foil copy of the One Ring is literally one of a kind and could one day sell for $1 million. The first look of Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth came with a lot of exciting announcements. Iconic characters such as Frodo, Samwise, and Gollum, full art map lands, ring frame versions of cards, borderless lands like Mount Doom and the Shire, and even serialized copies of Sol Ring depicted as the Elven, the Dwarven, and the Human Rings of Power. We also have a new mechanic of being tempted by the ring. We don't yet know how the mechanic works, but being tempted by the ring in real life is what we're talking about today. For the first time ever in Magic's history, we have a serialized single copy of a card, one of one. We can't overstate how significant this is. So when this single copy of the card eventually gets found, why is it going to be worth so much money? There are many reasons that drive the value of a collectible, but today we're focusing on scarcity, mass desirability, nostalgia, and elite social status. To say this card is rare is a bit of an understatement. There's exactly one copy that exists in one English collector booster pack in the entire world. Let's do some math here. We have roughly 3,000 LGSs in the United States. If we look at 100 boxes per store, we're looking at a print run of 300,000 collector booster boxes. Each box has 12 packs, which means your chances of finding this card are 1 in 3.6 million. And that number could easily be higher depending on the actual print run. With the supply being literally as low as possible, we now shift to the other half of the supply-demand curve. What Magic player doesn't want this card? It's beautiful and powerful, and while it is part of the universe's beyond, it actually feels like a normal Magic card as compared to, say, a Transformers card. The IP crossover brings in a whole new fan base of people who want this card. Lord of the Rings collectors who don't play Magic will still be interested in this piece for their collection, increasing demand. And Lord of the Rings collectors don't mess around. The Anduril set piece sold in 2024 for nearly $500,000. There's nothing quite like capturing a complete and total feeling from the past, particularly of an idyllic time. A big reason why many of us Magic players love old cards is their ability to instantly transport you back to the 90s. A significant part of the reason why the most expensive Magic card to date has ever sold for over $500,000 is simply because it's from 1993. The Lord of the Rings movies came out over 20 years ago, starting in 2001. This was the time before social media and smartphones and even texting. My older sister's boyfriend had a pager at the time. This is when movies were released in theaters at midnight, and then months later you could drive to Blockbuster and rent them on VHS. The Lord of the Rings books were published back in the 1950s, and many of us read them for the first time in our adolescence, a time before adulthood brought on the responsibilities of holding a full-time job or making mortgage payments. And while growing up is great and fulfilling in its own way, sometimes it's nice to go back to these simpler times, and Lord of the Rings memorabilia can do so very effectively. Taking on more responsibility is why I haven't posted a video in over a month, as my wife and I have been adjusting to parenthood with our new daughter. We couldn't be more excited. Now that I'm releasing videos again, make sure you catch all of them by joining the Wolf Pack and hitting the subscribe button. Owning items that are unique and rare demonstrates to yourself, and usually to others, that you've done the work and you've paid the price to achieve some level of greatness. They symbolize your accomplishments as you move up the social hierarchy. Now we can debate whether or not this is a virtue worth pursuing, but regardless, we do know that it does serve as a motivator for many people to work hard. I'm no art critic, but I know that part of the reason why a painting of an orange square can sell for $87 million is because that price signals to the world the elite status and buying power and social standing of its owner. The same will be true for the only person in the entire world who owns this single copy of the One Ring. Here's my final prediction of the future of this card. Assuming no foul play from Wizards in controlling where this card goes, it most likely will be opened at an LGS by an everyday, normal Magic nerd like you or me. They'll post about it online, and the world will go on fire. Countless people will contact this individual trying to buy the card for what is a big dollar amount in normal world Magic prices, but will ultimately prove to be a bargain. Let's say someone offers this person $50,000 for the card, and this is a legitimate offer, not an online troll just wasting everybody's time. The average person is not going to be able to resist this. No eBay, no hassle, no worrying about the card getting stolen, no worrying about keeping it safe and protected, no more stress, just a quick $50K in the bank. Done. Now this card is in possession by someone with more means and the ability to keep the card safe. They don't need the cash right away, so they can sit patiently and get a pulse on the market. They can have private conversations with collectors and whales and start to get an idea of what this is going to sell for in another private sale. The card could repeat this pattern and change hands a few times, and at some point in the next 10 years, I see this card selling for $1 million. Maybe you think I'm crazy. What do you think this card is worth? Let the world know in the comments below. Time will tell as we follow this story as it develops to see what someone is worth paying to own this one-of-a-kind piece of history. You might be newer to just how expensive Magic cards can be. Check out this video that explores the most expensive burn deck ever made.